My girlfriend exposed my financial struggles on TikTok for clout, laughing at my budget. I commented, "That's because I'm paying your $20,000 credit card debt." Then I cut her off completely. Her followers quickly turned on her as the repossession truck pulled up to take her car. I never thought it would come to this. 2 years ago, when Mia and I first started dating, things were simple. We had the usual mix of passion and fun. But something shifted in me over time. I'd always been responsible when it came to money. Not that I had a lot of it, but I made sure I knew where every dollar went. I tracked my spending like it was my second job, every grocery trip, every dinner out, even the small luxuries, like a new pair of jeans. I didn't mind it. In fact, I kind of enjoyed it. The structure felt good. Maya, on the other hand, was different. She wasn't financially irresponsible, not exactly. But her approach was much more relaxed, more about living in the moment. She didn't have a budget, at least not the kind I'd ever recognize. Her bills piled up while she lived for the next adventure, dinner, designer clothes, spontaneous trips. It was exciting for her, I guess. But for me, it was stressful. Still, I didn't mind picking up the slack. I loved her. So, I helped with the bills when she couldn't make ends meet, paid off her credit card debt when it seemed like she was drowning in it. I thought I was being a good boyfriend. It was what any partner would do, right? But then came that TikTok video. I had no idea it was coming. I woke up one morning to a string of messages from my friends, all linking me to the same TikTok. Mia, laughing, at me, at my budget, at the way I carefully calculated every dollar I spent. I felt sick when I opened it. There she was, in my kitchen, zooming in on my financial spreadsheet. The one I kept on the fridge like a daily reminder of my priorities. The screen flicked to the eating out line, where I had 60 listed for the month. Mia was laughing. Then it panned to the entertainment line, 40, more laughter. Clothes, 30. Her laughter echoed in the video, and she captioned it, "POV, your boyfriend is giving Ebenezer Scrooge energy. Man's really budgeted 60 for eating out for the month." My stomach dropped. 340,000 people had seen this. My gut twisted as I read the comments flooding in, each one a sharp reminder of how badly she'd made fun of me. "Girl, run." One comment read, "He's going to make you split the check at McDonald's." Another said, "Not the 30 clothes budget." I'm screaming. They all laughed at me. But they didn't know the full story. They didn't know that I was paying off her $20,000 credit card debt, or that I was covering her car payment, $430 a month, or that her phone bill was on my plan, $85 every month. The same phone bill she probably used to film that TikTok video. I sat there, feeling humiliated, but also something else. Anger. Why was I paying for her lifestyle and still getting mocked for it? So I commented. It wasn't planned, but it felt like the only thing I could do. "That's because I'm paying your $20,000 credit card debt, your car payment, and your phone bill. But sure, make fun of my budget." I hit post, closed the app, and tried to shake it off as I went to work. But by lunch, my phone was blowing up. My comment had 89,000 likes. People were ripping her apart. "Wait, what? Oh, so he's not broke, he's just financially responsible while supporting you," one person said. Someone even stitched the video with the caption, "When you try to clown your boyfriend, but accidentally expose that you're the financial burden." I wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry. I didn't feel bad for her. I felt free. For the first time in a while, I wasn't carrying the weight of her debt. For the first time, I wasn't ashamed of my budget. But I also knew this wasn't going to end well. Maya called me 16 times during lunch, but I didn't pick up. I didn't need to. I knew the storm was coming. And when it did, I wouldn't be there to weather it with her anymore. The rest of the afternoon was a blur. I couldn't concentrate at work. Every time I looked at my phone, another notification popped up. The TikTok video had gone viral, and my comment had stirred up a storm. I didn't expect it to go that far. I thought I was just responding to her disrespect. But by the time I left the office, the video had almost 500,000 views, and I was bombarded with messages. People I hadn't heard from in years, old high school classmates, even a few coworkers had seen it. Some were laughing at me, others at Maya, and then there were those who were commenting like they knew me personally. I didn't care about the viral video. What I cared about was what Mia was going to do next. She called me 16 times during lunch, and I didn't answer once. By the time I got home, I still hadn't heard from her, but I wasn't going to wait for a text or a call to make my decision. This had gone too far. Then, the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw Mia standing outside. Her hands were gripping her phone, her eyes wide, mascara smudged. She had that look: panic, desperation, the kind that comes when someone knows they've lost control. I didn't even hesitate. I opened the door and she rushed in, not even waiting for me to say anything. "I can't believe you did that," she cried, her voice shaking. "You humiliated me in front of everyone. How could you?" "That was private." I stood there, trying to stay calm, trying to process her words, but the anger was bubbling up. "Private? You posted my budget on TikTok for the world to see. You mocked me for being responsible. I had no choice." Her face twisted with frustration. "You really think I meant to hurt you? I was just trying to be funny. Lighten things up. It's not like I'm mocking you all the time." I shook my head. "It wasn't just that video. It's everything. You've taken advantage of me for months. I've been paying off your credit card debt, your car payments, your phone bill. I've been supporting you while you act like everything's a joke." She stopped staring at me, but there was no understanding in her eyes, just defensiveness. "You don't get it. I've been trying to build my career. You don't know what it's like." I felt my jaw tighten. "I offered to help you get back on your feet, but it's been a year, Maya. You're still stuck in the same place, spending money you don't have. And now you're laughing at me for trying to be financially responsible." "I didn't mean it like that," she said, her voice cracking. I just didn't think you'd react like this." "Of course you didn't think." I snapped. "You think everything's a joke until it's not." "Well, it's not a joke anymore." The silence between us was thick with tension. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but no words came out. Her lips trembled, and I could see the panic setting in as the reality of what I was saying hit her. "We're done," I said, my voice steady. "I'm cutting you off, all of it. The credit card, the car payment, your phone line. It stops today." Her face turned pale. "You can't do that. You're just being vindictive." "No," I said, taking a deep breath. "I'm being smart. You've been using me, and I let you, but not anymore." She stepped forward, reaching for me. "Please," she whispered, "don't do this. We can work it out. I can fix it." I backed away from her. "It's too late. You don't get to humiliate me, take my help for granted, and then act like nothing's wrong. Pack your things. We're done." Her eyes filled with tears. "You can't just throw me out like this. I need you." "No," I said again, firmly. "You need to figure out your own life. I'm not your backup anymore." I turned and walked away, heading back to the kitchen. I could hear her behind me, her sobs growing louder as she realized what was happening. But I couldn't turn back. I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore. Later that night, I made the calls. I called the credit card company first, explained what had happened, and removed myself as an authorized user. They confirmed that I wasn't legally responsible for her debt. It felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. Then I called the car dealership. I signed for her car a year ago because her credit was terrible. I knew the payments were in my name, but I hadn't realized how much I'd been carrying. I told them I was stopping the payments. They informed me that they would repossess the car unless she could refinance, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to let her keep using me. The last call was to the phone company. I removed her line from my plan, effective immediately. Another small victory for me. I sat down at my desk and looked at my budget. For the first time in a long time, I felt good about it. No more payments for someone who didn't appreciate my help. I could finally take control of my life again. I didn't know how Mia was going to handle it. I didn't know what would happen next. But for the first time in months, I felt free. I was sitting at my desk when Mia showed up at my office. I'd barely gotten settled after taking care of the calls, still trying to process the events of the day, when my phone buzzed again. This time it was her number. I didn't answer. Then there was a knock at my office door. I looked up, confused, but didn't move. When the door opened, I didn't expect to see Mia standing there, her eyes red, mascara streaked down her face. She looked desperate, the kind of desperation that comes when someone knows they've crossed a line and doesn't know how to take it back. "Maya," I said, my voice more firm than I expected. I wasn't sure what to feel right then. Part of me was still angry, but another part of me felt exhausted. "What are you doing here?" She ignored the question and rushed in. "How could you do this? You really exposed me to everyone like that. After everything we've been through." I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. "You exposed me first," I said, my voice calm but getting sharper with every word. "You posted my personal budget on TikTok and laughed about it. That was a violation of my privacy, Mia." "I didn't mean it like that," she said quickly, her voice cracking. "I thought it would be funny. You're always so serious about money. It's just a joke. Why are you making it such a big deal?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The gall of her, standing here and trying to downplay the whole situation. "It's not just the video, Mia. It's everything. For the last year, I've been paying your credit card debt, your car payments, your phone bill. And what do I get in return? You mock me for trying to be responsible. I'm not your personal ATM." Her face twisted, and for a second, I thought I saw a flicker of guilt, but it was gone in an instant. She shook her head. "I'm building my career, Jeremy. You don't understand. I'm trying to get things off the ground. You've had a year to get things together, Maya. A year. And instead of using that time to pay down your debt, you spent it on designer bags, dinners out, and trips. Meanwhile, I'm over here paying your bills while you make fun of me." My voice was growing more steady, my anger turning into resolve. She started to cry harder, and my frustration only deepened. She wiped at her face, trying to regain composure, but it wasn't working. "Please, Jeremy. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't think it would go this far. I was just trying to make people laugh. Please don't do this." "You didn't think it would go this far. You didn't think the public humiliation would have consequences." I shook my head, crossing my arms. "You thought I'd just let it slide, huh? Well, you were wrong." She stepped closer, eyes pleading. "Jeremy, we've been together for so long. Don't let this tear us apart. We can work through it. I promise I'll change. I'll fix things. Just please don't walk away." I stared at her, my mind racing. I'd given so much to this relationship. I'd sacrificed my own savings to help her out, to make sure she didn't fall behind. And now she was standing here, asking me to let it all go because she made a stupid mistake. I wasn't buying it anymore. "We're done," I said, the words coming out of my mouth more easily than I expected. "I can't keep doing this. I'm cutting you off. All of it, the credit card payments, the car payments, your phone plan, it stops today." Her face froze for a moment, like she couldn't comprehend what I was saying. "You can't just do that," she whispered. "We've been together for 2 years, Jeremy. You're going to leave me like this?" I nodded. "I am. I've done enough for you. I've been more than patient. But this is where it ends. You can't keep using me like this." She took a step back, her body going stiff with panic. No, please. You can't just cut me off. You can't do this." I could hear her voice trembling, but I didn't care. "I've been paying for your irresponsibility for long enough. You're going to have to face the consequences of your actions. And I'm not going to be the one to cushion the blow anymore." She shook her head, taking another step backward. "I don't have anywhere to go. What am I supposed to do?" "You'll figure it out," I said, feeling numbness settle in my chest. I wasn't heartless. I still cared for her, but I couldn't keep carrying the weight of her poor choices. Maya's eyes darted to the door, like she was considering running out, but instead, she just collapsed on the couch, burying her face in her hands. I turned to leave the room, but then I stopped and looked back at her one last time. "I'm done," I said again, this time more to myself than to her. "Pack your stuff. You have until the weekend to get everything out of my place. If it's not gone by then, I'll donate it." Her sobs were the only sound as I stepped out of the room, my mind still reeling. I felt a sharp pang of guilt, but I couldn't ignore the sense of relief that came with cutting ties. It was over. The next few days passed in a blur of calls, messages, and mounting tension. It felt like I was living in two worlds, one where I had control over my finances and my life, and another where Maya's chaos was trying to pull me back in. I didn't pick up her calls, but I couldn't escape the fallout. My phone constantly buzzed, a mix of notifications from friends, coworkers, and people I didn't even know. The viral video, my comment, and the whole mess had taken on a life of its own. I wasn't sure what had gotten to me more, the fact that Maya had aired my financial situation to millions of people, or the way I had finally stood up for myself. Either way, things were about to get real. I had already made my decision to stop paying her bills. But as the days wore on, I realized how much I'd been carrying. It wasn't just the money, it was the emotional weight of constantly trying to help someone who didn't appreciate it. I'd done everything to make her life easier, only for her to mock me publicly. And the worst part, she hadn't even realized the depth of her actions until it was too late. I sat down and reworked my budget. The changes were immediate. For the first time in a long time, I was putting money back into savings instead of covering someone else's debt. I looked at the line for discretionary spending and smiled when I saw the extra $145 that I was now able to allocate to my own future, not to Maya's bills. It wasn't just the money. It was the sense of freedom I had finally given myself. Maya's debts were no longer my problem, her phone bill, no longer my responsibility, her car payments, they were hers to deal with now, and that felt liberating. The relief was almost immediate, but that didn't mean things were easy. The next morning, as I was getting ready for work, my phone rang. It was Mia, but this time I didn't hesitate to pick it up. I had to face her sooner or later. "Jeremy, I can't believe you really did it," she said, her voice soft but laced with anger. "You stopped everything. You stopped helping me without even telling me first." "Stop, Maya," I replied, my voice steady. "You've had plenty of chances. I've been there for you. I helped you when no one else did. But you crossed a line with that video. You humiliated me. You mocked me for being responsible. I can't keep enabling you." "I wasn't mocking you," she snapped. "I was just having fun. It wasn't that serious." "It was serious to me," I said, feeling the anger rise in my chest. "And it's been serious to me for a long time. You didn't just mock my budget, Mia. You mocked me as a person. You laughed at the very thing that I've worked hard to maintain. And now you're paying the price for it." Her voice cracked. "I didn't mean for things to go this far. I never thought you'd stop everything. You were supposed to be there for me. I was there for you," I said, trying to keep my cool. "For a year, but you took it for granted. And I'm done being your safety net." There was a long silence on the other end of the phone, and for a moment, I thought she had hung up. Then, her voice returned, quieter but more desperate. "Jeremy, please don't do this. I can't survive without you. I need your help." I felt a twinge of guilt. It was hard hearing her like this, knowing she was struggling. But I reminded myself of the truth. I wasn't her savior. I wasn't responsible for her mistakes. "I can't keep saving you, Maya," I said, my voice firm. "You need to figure this out on your own. You'll be fine. You just have to take responsibility for your life." She sighed heavily. "So, that's it. You're really walking away?" "Yes," I said, my heart pounding in my chest. "This is it." There was another long pause. "I can't believe you're doing this," she whispered, and I could hear the tears in her voice. "I thought you loved me." "I do love you," I said, my voice softening for a moment. "But love isn't enough to fix everything, and I can't keep enabling you." The line went dead, and I stared at my phone for a few moments, not knowing what to feel. I felt a strange mix of guilt and relief. Guilt because she was in pain, but relief because I knew I'd made the right choice. The rest of the day was quiet. No more frantic texts or calls from Mia. I thought she'd be calling me again, maybe even showing up at my door, but nothing. It felt like I had truly cut the final string. That night, after work, I decided to take a walk. The evening air was crisp, and I needed to clear my head. As I walked through the city, I thought about how different things had felt in the past. How I used to feel guilty about saying no to her, even when I knew I was being taken advantage of. But now I didn't feel that way anymore. I had been giving so much of myself for so long that I had forgotten what it felt like to do something for me. To think about my future instead of always focusing on hers. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. That night, I sat down at my kitchen table and looked at my budget again. I smiled as I added a little more to my savings. I could finally start planning for my own future. The days after I cut Mia off felt surreal. I didn't hear from her for a while, and honestly, I was relieved. For the first time in a long time, my phone wasn't blowing up with text messages or missed calls. It was almost like a weight had been lifted, but I knew it wasn't over. That night, I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the entire situation in my head. I hadn't expected it to escalate like this. The video, my comment, her desperate calls, none of it seemed real. It was all so public, so messy, but I couldn't deny the sense of freedom I felt. I'd taken control of my life again. Then, the next morning, I woke up to a notification that made my stomach drop. It was a TikTok video from someone I didn't know. My ex's face filled the screen, tears streaming down her cheeks as she sat in the car. I watched in silence as she spoke into the camera, her voice cracking. "I've made a mistake," she said, sniffling. "I hurt someone who was trying to help me, and now I'm paying the price." She paused, glancing around, as if looking for sympathy. "To everyone who supported me, thank you, but I know now I was wrong. And I'm dealing with the consequences." It was her apology. Or at least, that's what it seemed like. I felt nothing watching it. The video was a desperate attempt to clean up the mess she had made. It wasn't an apology for how she treated me. It was an apology because she got caught. I knew that. I wasn't sure what I expected, but this wasn't it. The comments on the video weren't kind. They ripped her apart. "You violated his privacy and made him a joke," one person wrote. "You got caught and now you're playing the victim." Another person commented, "You had all that help and you threw it away for what? A joke." It felt good to see the tables turn, but at the same time I felt a strange emptiness. This was the woman I thought I loved, and here she was, trying to manipulate the same people who had once cheered her on. I wasn't going to be fooled by it. Not anymore. That evening, I got a call. It wasn't from Maya, but from her best friend. I had expected Mia to contact me again, but it wasn't her. It was Sarah. The tone in her voice was different from Maya's. She was calm, collected. There was no desperation, no pleading. Just a quiet voice on their end of the line. "You need to stop Jeremy," Sarah said. "You don't understand what you're doing to her. She's in a really bad place right now, and you need to fix this." I leaned back in my chair, trying not to laugh. "I'm not the one who put her in a bad place," I replied, my voice even. "She did that all on her own. She didn't mean to hurt you," Sarah said, her voice softer now. "She just made a mistake, a big mistake. But she's sorry. You should forgive her. She needs your help." I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. "I don't think you understand, Sarah. This isn't just about her being sorry. This is about the fact that she thought she could walk all over me. And I'm done being used." There was a long pause before Sarah spoke again, this time her voice tinged with frustration. "So, what, you're just going to leave her hanging? You're just going to walk away from everything you've done for her? You think this is the right way to handle it?" "I think the right way to handle it is for her to take responsibility for her own actions," I said, my voice firm. "I gave her a chance to fix things. I even helped her when she didn't deserve it. But she crossed a line. I'm not going to let her make me feel guilty for standing up for myself." "She's going to be ruined," Sarah said, almost as if to herself. "Do you want that? Do you really want her to spiral like this?" "I want her to learn," I said quietly, my heart pounding. "I want her to learn that she can't just rely on people, especially not me, to clean up her messes. She's going to have to face the consequences of her actions." I could hear Sarah sigh. "You're a really cold person, Jeremy." Maybe I was. But it didn't feel that way. What I felt was clarity. I wasn't doing this out of spite or hatred. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was simply drawing a line. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid to enforce it. The next few days passed slowly. Maya didn't contact me directly again, but the fallout continued. I heard from friends who were still reeling from her video. People I hadn't talked to in months reached out to tell me they'd seen it. Some of them were sympathetic, others not so much. There were whispers, comments, and judgments, but none of it mattered. As the week dragged on, Maya's situation got worse. The car was repossessed, just like I'd said would happen. I knew it was coming, but that didn't stop the feeling of satisfaction that bubbled up when I saw the first video pop up on my feed. There she was, sitting in the driver's seat of an empty parking lot, the tow truck pulling away with her car. She tried to play the victim, of course. "I've lost everything," she said in the video, wiping away her tears. "I have nothing left." But people weren't buying it. Not anymore. Comments flooded in, some with sympathy, but many with harsh words. "You made fun of your boyfriend for budgeting, and now look where you are." One comment said, "Play stupid games, win stupid prizes." It felt like karma. I knew Maya had to face the consequences of her actions. but I couldn't help feeling a sense of relief. I had stopped enabling her. I had stopped being the person who always picked up the pieces. And now, I was free. The week after the repossession felt like it lasted forever, but the world kept turning. Maya's videos continued to surface, each one more desperate than the last. She tried to reframe the story, tried to play the victim, but it was too late. People weren't buying it anymore. The comments under her videos became increasingly hostile, with people reminding her of what she had done to me. "You lost a good guy." One comment said, "He was supporting you, and you mocked him. What did you think would happen?" Her car was gone, her credit card debt still looming over her, and her attempts to patch things up with her followers were met with indifference. Maya posted another video sitting in her empty apartment, surrounded by boxes. "I'm starting over," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm going to make things right. I'm going to pay off my debts. I'm going to change." But no one seemed to believe her anymore. The damage was done. I thought I would feel better about it, but I didn't. The whole thing had left me feeling hollow. It was like the end of a chapter in my life that I wasn't sure I was ready to close, but I knew I had to. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about me, about my own growth, my own healing. By the weekend, I hadn't heard from Mia directly, but I wasn't surprised. I didn't expect her to contact me again after everything. But then, at about noon on Saturday, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I checked the peephole, I saw her, Maya, standing there, her arms crossed tightly across her chest. Her eyes were swollen, red from crying. She looked smaller than I remembered, as if the weight of everything was physically crushing her. I opened the door, and she didn't say anything at first. She just stood there, looking at me, her face expressionless. "I need to talk to you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I could tell she was trying to be calm, but I didn't miss the way her hands were shaking. "I don't think there's anything left to talk about," I said, leaning against the doorframe. I couldn't bring myself to invite her in. I wasn't ready for that. "I know," she said, nodding. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you." She paused, swallowing hard. "But I need you to understand that I wasn't trying to do that. I was just scared. I didn't know what I was doing." I studied her for a moment, trying to decide how I felt. The guilt was still there, hanging in the air between us. But it was no longer my responsibility to carry it. "You need to stop using people, Mia," I said softly. "You can't keep running from your problems and expecting someone else to fix them for you." Her eyes welled up again, but she quickly wiped her face with the sleeve of her jacket. "I know," she whispered. "I don't know how I got here. I didn't know how to do it on my own. I thought I could handle it, but I couldn't. And now I've lost everything." I didn't feel sympathy. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. I couldn't feel sorry for her anymore. I couldn't keep playing the part of the guy who picked up the pieces every time she messed up. "Mia, you need to figure this out for yourself. I can't keep saving you." She shook her head and I saw the hurt in her eyes. "I don't expect you to," she said quietly. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. I didn't realize how much I hurt you until it was too late. I didn't know what to say to that. I wasn't sure I even wanted to say anything. I'd already made my decision. "I've already moved on," I said, my voice steady. "I'm not going back, Mia. This isn't something I can fix for you." She nodded like she expected that response. For a moment, she didn't say anything. She just looked at me, her expression a mixture of sadness and acceptance. "Okay," she finally whispered. "I get it." And then, without another word, she turned and walked away. I closed the door behind me, my mind still reeling. The whole thing felt surreal. It was like I was watching a story unfold, but I wasn't sure if I was the hero or the villain. I sat down at my kitchen table, trying to make sense of it all. I didn't regret my decision. Not really. I had to let go, but that didn't make it easier. I could feel the weight of the last 2 years lifting off my shoulders, but there was still a sense of loss. It wasn't until the following week that I realized just how much had changed. One of my friends reached out to me about the whole situation. We'd been talking about work, but eventually, they brought up the viral video. "Man, I'm sorry about what happened with Maya," he said. "But, I've got to say, I think you made the right choice." I nodded, but there was no real satisfaction in it. I had made the right choice, but it didn't feel like a win. I had to. I said, running a hand through my hair. I couldn't keep letting her drag me down. "You've been carrying her for so long," he said. "You deserve a chance to breathe. To actually live your life without worrying about her." I let out a slow breath, the weight of his words finally hitting me. He was right. I'd been drowning for so long, but now I had space to breathe. Maya had moved back in with her parents, and I had to admit not to feel some level of relief knowing she was no longer in my life. I wasn't happy about what happened to her, but I had to stay firm. She'd made her choices, and now she had to face them. I'd learned that no one could change unless they were ready to change. And Maya, she wasn't ready. But that didn't mean I had to keep trying to fix her. It was time for me to focus on my own future. So, I started making plans. I had a small savings cushion now, more than I'd ever had before. I'd even taken a vacation to Colorado, something I hadn't done in years. I wasn't rich, but I was starting to feel like I was finally in control again. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't holding my breath. I was living for me. I was almost starting to feel like I was in the clear. The silence from Mia was comforting, and my life was returning to some semblance of normalcy. I kept focusing on my work, my finances, and my future. I didn't have time for distractions, especially not from someone who didn't respect me. But the calm didn't last long. The storm, it seemed, wasn't finished with me yet. It was around noon on a Wednesday when I saw the notification. A message from an unknown number. I clicked on it, half expecting it to be another random sales pitch or a spam message. But then I read the words and my stomach sank. It was from Maya's lawyer. The message was brief, but its impact was immediate. It said she was filing a legal claim against me, accusing me of breaching a verbal agreement to support her financially. She was demanding $15,000 in damages for the financial hardship she claimed I had caused her by cutting off my payments. The message was full of legal jargon, and I had to read it twice to fully understand it. At first, I couldn't believe what I was reading. How could she even think she had a case? I hadn't signed anything. There was no written agreement. Everything I had done for her had been voluntary. But there it was, the audacity of it, wrapped up in legal terms. I stared at the screen for a few moments, feeling the blood rush to my head. It was like the past few weeks of peace hadn't existed at all. Mia was still finding a way to pull me back into her mess. I sat at my desk, my hands gripping the edges of the table as I tried to steady myself. The last thing I wanted was to deal with a legal battle, especially after everything that had happened. But there was no way I was backing down. Not now. Not after everything she had put me through. I called my friend, Daniel. He was a lawyer, and he was the first person I turned to whenever I was in over my head. He picked up after a few rings. "Hey, man, what's up?" he asked, his voice casual. I tried to keep my tone level, but the frustration was clear. "I just got a message from Maya's lawyer. She's suing me for $15,000, claiming I breached some verbal agreement to pay her bills." Daniel was silent for a moment. Then he let out a low whistle. "She's really going after you, huh?" "Yeah," I said, rubbing my forehead. "I don't know what to do. I haven't signed anything. This is all just ridiculous." "Don't worry, man," Daniel said, his voice turning more serious. "You didn't do anything wrong. There's no way she has a case here. Verbal agreements like that are incredibly hard to enforce. I'll help you out with this. Just send me what she sent you, and I'll take a look." I felt a small sense of relief. At least I had someone who knew what they were talking about. I forwarded the message to Daniel and waited as he reviewed it. It didn't take long for him to respond. "Yeah, this is nonsense," he said. "You didn't promise to pay her anything. You were helping her out of goodwill, but you're not legally obligated. I'll write a response for you, and we'll send it over. She'll drop this fast." "Thanks, man," I said, feeling the tension in my shoulders ease a little. "I appreciate it." "Anytime," Daniel replied. "Let's get this over with." By the time I finished talking to Daniel, I was feeling more confident. I wasn't going to let Mia intimidate me with legal threats. She had tried to manipulate me emotionally, and now she was trying to use the legal system to do the same. But I wasn't falling for it. The next day, I received another message from her lawyer. It was a formal response to Daniel's letter, but it didn't faze me. The lawyer had tried to push for a settlement. But Daniel had already made it clear that we weren't going to settle. The whole thing felt like a ploy to get me to cave in, but I wasn't going to let her win this time. Then, to my surprise, I heard from Maya. She called me directly, using a different number. I didn't recognize the area code, but I picked up anyway. Jeremy. Her voice cracked as soon as I answered. I need you to understand. I didn't know how to get out of this mess, I thought. I thought if I made it public, people would see my side. But now everything's falling apart and I don't know what to do. I can't believe this is happening. I didn't feel the same anger I had before. Instead, there was a dull ache in my chest. It wasn't pity, it wasn't guilt, it was just sadness. Sadness for her, but mostly for me, for what I had lost. I'm not doing this anymore. Mia, I said, my voice steady. I've already told you, I'm not going back to what we were. You need to figure this out for yourself. This isn't my problem anymore. I never meant for any of this to happen, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I wanted to say something else. To offer some kind of closure, but I knew it wouldn't matter. She wasn't ready to take responsibility for her actions, and I wasn't going to let her drag me back in. I have to go, I said, my voice cold but calm. Goodbye, Mia. I ended the call before she could say anything else. It was over. The legal threats faded away after that. Her lawyer dropped the case, and I never heard from Maya again. It felt strange, like a part of my life had been erased. But the strangest part was how little it affected me. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't upset. I had finally moved on. And for the first time in a long time, I felt completely at peace. The weeks that followed felt like I was watching my life from the outside. Things were quieter, more peaceful. Maya was gone, and with her, the weight that had been hanging over me for so long. I didn't have to think about her every day, didn't have to worry about what new mess she was getting herself into. My budget was mine again. My savings were mine again. I kept my routine simple. I started waking up earlier, going to the gym more consistently. I'd never been a fitness junkie, but I could feel the difference. My body had more energy. My mind felt clearer. At work, things were going smoothly too. I was up for a promotion. And with all the mental space I now had, I was focused. I could feel my confidence growing. I had the space to breathe. But it wasn't just about work or money. It was about me. I was finally getting back to the person I used to be, the one who wasn't constantly running on empty. I had stopped living for everyone else, for their needs, for their drama. I was finally starting to live for myself again. One night, I sat down with a glass of wine and looked over my budget. The numbers were solid. The $145 I'd been spending on Maya's bills had been redirected. I was saving more than ever before, setting aside money for a down payment on a house. It wasn't much yet, but it was a start. I was investing in my future. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in months, I wasn't afraid of it. I was in control. Then, a couple of weeks later, I got a message. This time it was from her younger brother, Ben. He and I had never been particularly close, but we'd gotten along fine when Mia and I were together. He was one of the few people in her life who seemed to get it. Hey, man, the message began. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything that's happened. Mia was wrong for what she did, and I know it's been hard on you. I get why you had to do what you did. Just know I don't blame you. You did more than enough for her. Hope you're doing all right. It was a simple message, but it meant a lot. The way Ben put it, it was like he was acknowledging something I didn't even fully realize I needed: validation. For the first time in ages, I felt like someone saw what I had been doing. Someone understood the weight of the situation, not just what Mia had done, but how much it had cost me to finally let go. I responded briefly, just saying thanks and that I was doing well. That was all. I didn't need to dwell on the past anymore. I'd made my peace. A few days later, I saw another video from Mia. This time she was sitting in a modest apartment talking about how she was starting over. The video was much calmer, the desperation gone, replaced by a sense of forced humility. I've made a lot of mistakes, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. And I'm trying to fix them. It's not going to be easy, but I'm going to try. I didn't watch it all the way through. I didn't need to. She wasn't really apologizing. She was just trying to save face. But even as I swiped past it, I didn't feel anything. No anger, no resentment. Just a strange indifference. I didn't need closure from her anymore. I had it all along, buried deep in the decision I'd made. I went back to my day, my life. A few weeks later, I got an unexpected call. It was from my boss. "Jeremy," he said, "I've got good news. We've been talking about the promotion and we're ready to offer it to you. You've been doing outstanding work, and we want you to step up into a leadership role." I was taken aback for a moment, but then a grin spread across my face. "That's great," I said. "I'm ready for it." It was more than just a promotion. It was a validation of everything I'd been working for. I had put in the hours, the effort, and now I was being recognized for it. The next few months passed quickly. I made the most of the promotion, diving into new projects, building relationships with my team, and continuing to grow in ways I hadn't imagined just a year ago. My financial situation improved, my confidence skyrocketed, and for the first time in a long time, I was looking forward to the future. I'd learned a lot in the past year. I'd learned that helping someone should never come at the cost of your own well-being. That being financially responsible wasn't a joke, but a necessity. That standing up for myself wasn't a weakness, it was strength. And maybe, just maybe, I'd learned that it was okay to put myself first. One day, I got a message from a random number. When I opened it, I saw that it was from a financial literacy organization. "Hey Jeremy," the message started. "We've seen your story, and we think you'd be a great speaker for our upcoming event. We'd love to have you share your experiences with budgeting and financial responsibility." I was taken aback. At first I thought it was a joke, but the more I read, the more I realized it was real. For the first time, I thought about it. I thought about how my story had resonated with so many people. How the viral video, the chaos, and the eventual clarity could serve as a reminder to others about the importance of financial responsibility and the value of setting boundaries. I agreed to do it. Maya's story had become my story in a way, but I wasn't going to let it define me. I had a chance now to help others avoid the same pitfalls I'd fallen into, to teach them the lessons I'd learned the hard way. And as I prepared for the event, I couldn't help but feel proud. Not of the drama, not of the mess, but of what I'd built since. For once, I was doing things for me. And that was worth more than any apology.